All right, well, I'm just gonna stay seated since it's just two of us, if you don't mind. Okay.
I am too.
All right, folks. I am Michael Cancio with Annie Mac Home Mortgage. As you can tell, today's topic of conversation is how to win in today's market. And we're going to go into some granular details about this. This is a little bit interactive, so I'd like to see some participation. I know that's not always easy when we're on a Zoom environment, but I would like to start off by asking you guys a few questions. And first, this time last year, how many homes were available for sale across the entire United States? Go
Not
ahead.
many.
Not many. That's a great answer.
I'm gonna get on my data sheet.
Anyone take a stab at it? You can either unmute or drop it into the chat box. We don't want death by PowerPoint today, do we, folks? All right, I'm gonna give you a pass on this one. It's 500,000. There's about 500,000 homes available across the entire United States at this time last year. How about now? Anybody have any idea how many are available right now? Hint, the number is lower.
Oh, no,
Okay,
it
there we
says, it says. Hold on.
Are you cheating?
I do, yes. It says it's 1.6.
You got to take away the pending sales.
Oh,
Yeah, so there's good guesses. We've got we're actually about 480 as of last month. The number hasn't come out yet for this month, but yeah, it's about 480,000 homes across the entire United States right now. Anybody have any idea what inflation, the percent of inflation was at this time last year?
not as bad as it is this year. Is that true? No, it's lower this year. Doesn't feel like it.
Anyone? Bueller? Inflation this time last year was about 5.5. Anybody have any idea what the Fed's target goal is for inflation to get to? What's their secret number?
2%.
2%. We got a couple people with the right answer.
Google it up.
And anybody have any idea what it is now? That's good. That's right in between. It is 2.8. So the Fed,
Oh, so it's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I forgot to change this last slide for the inflation was this time last year. Last time I did the presentation was in January, and it was 7 at that point. But yeah, we're at 2.8% now. The personal consumption expenditures model is what the Fed looks at most closely when determining where we are at. And more specifically, they look more at that core year over year. So you can see that 2.8 there. We'll go into that a little bit more. So a lot has happened. I'm not sure how many of you have been in, if you don't mind tapping into the box or coming off mute. How many of you been in the business for more than 5 years? Actually, just put your number of years that you've been in the business. But you
12 years.
12 years. So you've seen some stuff.
Well, no, hold on, I'm like closer to 15. But I had a big break because I had triplets and I stayed home. So I sold in Nashville and then stayed home for a little bit and then started working full time again last year. And I my real estate license for like 2 years before that, before
Triplets.
15-year-old.
Wow. bet that was fun. Still is.
Was it
Daniela,
good?
how long you been in the business? Well, it's been about 5 years. Zoom user, would you mind changing your name? If you go into the participant box, there's a, I hit it right on the nose. Look at that. Somebody's in here as Zoom user. If there's 3 dots to the right of your name, if you can click on that and change your name so I don't have to call you Zoom user, that'd be fantastic. So, we saw a wild ride. We saw kind of in 2021, we were basically printing money. Deals were hopping in the barrel. We were just shooting them out. And then 2022 came, and first quarter 2022 was lights out. 2020 second quarter was lights out. What happened in third quarter? September 2022. Did anybody see that screeching halt? Because it's literally the market in September of 2022 where it was a screeching halt. Anybody see that coming? So your crystal ball looked a little bit more like this. This is one of the things that we want to talk to you about today. So we can give you the way to arm yourself so you don't, so you can prepare one way or another what's happening in the market. So I'm going to use the Jones family. This is a Google pick, so I just made up their name since people like to keep up with the Joneses. But what are you guys hearing as far as clients that are on the fence to buy right now? What are some of their common objections?
They're in a low interest rate.
They're in a low rate. That's a common one.
Lose their rate. Home prices are up when they did with their rate, like 2% rate for 2.5, 3, whatever.
Yeah.
And for new home buyers, they don't have the money down and the closing costs that they need because rent's high.
Those are all good ones. You guys give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear us both. Okay. Keep going on, you guys. Yes, excellent. All right. So those are all some good ones. So what we're going to do is start off the first part of this presentation. We're going to talk about ways to combat the most common objections that we're seeing right now. Buyers giving excuses of why they want to get into the business, and I really want you guys to get this down. So if you have any questions, want me to review anything, just go ahead and feel free to stop me, raise your hand. However you want to go about it is fine. So I think one of the first things, that I always like to ask is what do you think? Is now
always a good time to buy.
I like it. Now, do you truly believe that, or that's what's just your program to say?
It depends on the situation for the person. I don't truly believe it. If you're comfortable in your house, you like your house, you're at a low mortgage rate, it's not always the smartest thing to do, depending on when you purchased your house, how much equity you have. It just depends. If you bought, right at the 2019, then I would say stay in your house a little bit longer. Maybe rent your house and then purchase if you can possibly do that. But the thing about real estate is people have to. There's situations that they have to buy. They're growing out of their home. They have to downsize. They have to. There are things that people have to do. And at the beginning of this year, my closings were all cash. There was not a loan I did. I did not do a loan. And we love cash always, of course. But I even was like, do you want to get rid of all your cash? Why not do a small loan and keep some of your cash? Nobody wanted to even talk about it. So I think that that's something that people are nervous about as well. Hi, come on in.
Hello.
There's a ton around here, so no worries.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So you have to get people to want to get something.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some situations that it does make sense and some that don't. Um, I think what we see a lot of times is these common um, objections. We're kind of going into kind of what are some common objections and how to overcome them when it comes to people that buyers that are on the fence don't want to pull the trigger right now. And so I'm waiting for rates to get better, waiting for a better deal. Everything's too expensive. What about my favorite? The bubble is about to burst. Anybody hear that? Anybody get that objection?
Not very often. I don't think it's gonna be like there was in 14? Because there's things in place that don't allow it to get that way. So I think that it's been evening out. People they're still holding on to their equity though. They still have equity in their homes. They're not losing their equity. They're just not at that rate, the increase in price like we were, because we couldn't stay there. It would have been ridiculous to stay there like it was. So I really don't want to believe there's any bubble that's bursting. I just want it to get even out and let's get at a decent rate. Everybody get used to the 6% range. Let's get, because it's a good, healthy range. But Tiffany, like the damages.
So, Orges, I am totally taking Tiffany on the road with me to do this presentation because she is hitting these right on the head. One thing I love about this question, the bubble's about to bust, is that I've got a response to that works 100% of the time. 0.000% of the people ever can give me a response to this question that I'm about to ask. And that is, what is going to cause it? What is going to cause the bubble burst? A lot of people like to say there's a bubble going to be burst, but not many people know why they believe that.
Well, when it did in 2014, it's because they were giving 100 whatever loans to people with a pulse.
There were a lot of reasons what happened in 2000.
Yeah, but that was a big one too. I mean, I was closing homes with like 100% loan plus more, plus funds to buy a car, whatever, or yeah. So that there's a lot of reasons for that, but that's not happening right now.
Correct. Yeah. So besides that, so one of the things that that could possibly cause the bubble to crash, if I'm hearing Tiffany right, is that we were over leveraging people with their financing. What else? We got a bunch of people coming in. We got Rudy, we got Anastasia. Any of you guys have an idea of what's going to cause the bubble to burst? Why is there lines on there?
I mean, if there weren't jobs or if we didn't.
All right. You guys gonna make me pull some. I'm gonna start calling on people here shortly. All right. So bad loans. Tiffany hit it right on the head. In 2010, after what happened in 2008, for those of you that remember that and being in the business, we had a tough time. And a lot of it had to do with bad loans, like Tiffany suggested. We were giving loans to people that could fog a mirror and had a heartbeat. And that wasn't necessarily, in hindsight, the best idea. But in 2010, we had some reform that came in the industry. Now that we got more people here, I'm gonna stand up. I don't like sitting here like this. Let me get my little pointer. Why are these little scratchies on here? Is this all the way through? That is terrible. Somebody else scratch on my thing? It's so bizarre. I don't see it here. Oh, all right, I'm gonna get up. Start moving around.
Predatory lending is also goes under the bad loans, flipped appraisals, also. There wasn't much on the market at that time either, people were fighting. Um,
Yeah, so there were 12 appraisals. 813-480-6085. That is Cody Johnson's appraisal phone number that I still remember to this day from the early 2000s. He was an appraiser in Tampa, Florida. Conversely, I couldn't even tell you the name of a single appraiser company that I've done business with over the last 10 years. But I still remember Cody's cell phone number off the top of my head. And the reason why that's important is what happened in 2010 is that we changed the policy on here. So mortgage people are no longer allowed to call Cody and say, hey, Cody, I need 285, or I'll find somebody else that will.
banks do, or loan, who doesn't have that
Appraisal
appraisal there?
management
Yeah,
companies,
the appraisal,
AMCs, yeah.
AMCs, yeah.
So
Banks
so the AMCs take us out of the mix. I'm not allowed to negatively impact the market just to get a deal done. And I remember when this first came out, a lot of people in my industry were really not too excited about that. But I always refuted back with like, this is like the best thing to come for our industry. It's not going to be great right now, but overall, in the long haul, this is going to be fantastic for us because we're going to go back to true values, which we desperately needed. Predatory lending, again, 2008. 2008, we got rid of a lot of that stuff. Now, underwater, this was one of the biggest deals back in the day. Anybody have any idea of how much equity the average American had in their home in 2008? Anyone online? The classroom is stumped.
2008,
What percentage of equity?
not much.
That is a great answer.
I don't know the percentage, I know it's not. I know.
Just put a percentage sign behind it. Not much. Percent.
Still to make money, or pay a realtor.
Right. It was 17%. Anybody know how much equity we have on a national average right now?
The biggest we've seen, right?
Yeah. 58%.
Holy.
The average American has 58% equity in their home right now. Which is interesting, consider we're at the all-time highest credit card debt ever. And we just drained $1 trillion in savings from Americans' savings. $1 trillion in 2023 alone, right? So people got all this equity. They're excited about and proud of their 3% rate, but they're paying 25% interest on $40,000 worth of credit card debt.
And spending their cash.
And we'll get into that. We'll go into that foreclosure thing. But I want to talk about supply and demand first. Supply and demand in 2028, in the future, no, in 2008, we saw a major supply issue. We were building way ahead of the demand. Household formations, and what I mean by household formations is a couple get together, they end up getting married, and they end up starting a family. That is a household formation. And in 2008, that number was really low historically. Conversely, we're almost the highest that we've ever seen household formations right now. We're at about 2 million household formations a year, but we're only building at a 1.5 million pace. So our demand is super high. We already talked about at the beginning of the class that we only have 500,000, 480,000 homes available across the entire United States. But do we have any sign of that catching up? If we're gaining 2 million homeowners or families a year, but we're only building at 1.5 pace, and there's only 500,000 homes available.
It tells me no bubbles bursting anytime soon.
Right. That's what I want to give. Give Tiffany a cigar. All right. So let's go to foreclosures, right? I have had the privilege of knowing the senior VP at Chase for a long time of the REO division. And her and I usually get together for dinner around the holidays. And not 2023, but 2022, I remember her telling me that they were staffing up for an influx of foreclosures because the data was showing that they were having a significant increase. And percentage-wise, it was a significant increase. It was like 180% increase in foreclosures. However, when we got into the details, it was only a few hundred homes. From a couple hundred homes to 1,000 homes, right? So my question to her was, well, why are you guys staffing up? Isn't the demand just going to swallow all those deals up if we got this much equity in our homes? And she was like, you know what? If I knew that, I'd be CEO of Chase. I'm not, but this is what they're doing. This is what we're going to do. And I'm like, all right, I hope you don't regret it. Fast forward, or I guess now rewind. We had dinner again the end of December this past year. And guess what? Excellent point, Anastasia. They ended up laying off 68% of that division. Not only are the people they hired, but more people, including her. She ended up getting let go a couple months ago. My point of saying that is, I think this is one of the most common objections to saying this is what's going to cause the bubble to burst. We went through COVID. We had all these people going on deferred mortgage, and now they're not going to be able to pay when they go back to being on time again.
But their equity is up, and so they can, so it's not the same situation.
Good, good, good. That's what I like to hear. So that's exactly right. If we got 58% equity, you don't need to fire sale your home. And even if the bank took it back on the books, they don't need to fire sale. What happened in 2008 is when you're a bank. Uh-oh. Something happened to my presentation. Are we back live again?
Yes, we can all see it.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good, and the little scratches are gone. All right. So
there was no equity in 2008.
So in 2008, we had no equity, and the banks, they have what's called a litmus test. We saw this with Silicon Valley Bank recently. When you have assets on your balance sheet, you have to have enough liquidity to cover a multiple of that, depending on what it is that we're talking about. When it comes to real estate or real estate owned properties, when banks take a $500,000 house back onto their books because somebody got foreclosed on, that actually ties up $1.5 million of money because they have to have a 3 times multiple of that asset that they can't lend them. In 2008, the feds went into Ocala, Florida, knocked on Taylor Bean Whitaker's door and said, you got all these properties that are REOs back on the books, let's see your books. They didn't have 3 times the money frozen in their accounts to cover the amount of assets they had. They shut down immediately. And then they went to bank after bank after bank, and shut them all down. All the ones that couldn't pass that liquidity test. That's exactly what happened in Silicon Valley. If you remember last year, Silicon Valley, they were in trouble. They tried to sell some shares. They sold like 1 billion shares. And that still didn't solve their problem because they tried to sell the business a week later. And the Fed said, you know, here you go. You just sold 1 billion and now you're trying to sell the company. So there's a reason for this, right? And there was a reason for that because they were heavy in startup business. But they didn't pass that liquidity test, they got shut down. So that's kind of how that whole thing works. So when you go back to foreclosure, you look at foreclosures, the banks back then, they had to get those things off the books. When they got back on their books, they were trying to get them off as cheaply as possible because they needed to lend that money to keep doing their thing.
Short sales.
Short sales, right? So we went over bad loans, we went over flat appraisals, we went over predatory lending, underwater properties, supply and demand, and foreclosures. Does anybody feel like they don't know how to refute any one of these objections? And if you feel like you want me to go over anything there or you don't feel comfortable answering one of those, please kind of raise your hand or say yes, you want me to go over something specific. Otherwise, we're going to go into the Joneses some more. Anyone? Bueller?
I think the easiest thing for us to discuss if somebody thinks about a bubble is the supply and demand. That's simple. That they can look that up. It's very, very easy to see. It's very easy to understand. That's the way I always go in the situation where they're like, oh, the bubble's gonna burst. I'm like, where's the supply? People still need homes.
Mhm.
So that's always where I go if that discussion happens.
Yeah, that's a great,
Because everybody understands
supply and demand and the equity. I think
Yeah,
you
and
put those two
yeah.
things together, I think you got a home run there.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, we're gonna go into the Joneses some more, maybe. I think I got knocked. There we go. I'm waiting for rates to get better. How many times we had this? Or just if we had a dime for every time somebody hit this, we'd be rich, wouldn't we? All right. So when are the rates going to get better? Here's what we got so far this year. We see the top right corner is where we were a couple days ago. National average. And this is 20% down with people between 680 and 739. We saw some volatility since March. We saw some pretty big swings. I mean, just looking at the last 30 days from April 25th to May 29th, we saw quite a bit of fluctuation, right? Can anybody recall what happened to cause such a swing? Probably not. You gonna say it? That's it.
Nothing.
Nobody else? Just me. I'm sorry, Anastasia. You said 7. I don't know what you're referring to. I apologize. So really what we'll see, and we'll look at this here in a second. Here's going back all the way to October. This is mortgage-backed security bonds. And we'll see right here, the higher you are on the chart, the worse the interest rates are. The lower you are on the chart, I'm sorry, the higher you are on the chart, the better the interest rate. The lower you are on the chart, the lower the interest rate. There's a direct correlation. When the stock market's doing well, interest rates usually suffer. And the reason being is when the stock market is doing well, most people don't go into bonds. They put their money into stocks. And so the price of bonds go down. When the market's doing terrible, people get out of stock market and they go into bonds. That increases the price of the bond. So we'll see green is good, red is bad on this chart. The lower we are on the chart, the higher the interest rate. So you go all the way back to mid-October, we knew this was coming because of all the Fed hikes that we had going leading up to that. We had 5 Fed hikes that went up leading up to that October date. But since then, we can see that interest rates are going well. I pulled this at like midnight last night. So we ended the day at 19 basis points on the top left. You can see the 10-year in the middle, and you can see the S&P on the top right. This is one of my screens at all time, every day of the week, dedicated to just looking at the market. Now, the reason why this is important is you look at that circle spot in October. Like I said, we saw this coming like 6 months ahead. We knew, and I was teaching agents to buckle up, get them in now, talk to your clients, because over the next 6 months, these rates are going to go and get terrible. At that point, we were at the highest interest rates that we've seen since 1990. 1990, it's a long time ago. But now we're kind of trickling up. We see since the end of May, let's see here, get my laser pointer out. Since the end of May, that we're seeing some improvement, right? So while the end of May 29th says 7.14, we're closer to that 7 mark.
I want to be at a 6 mark. Let's say it's 6.
We're working on that 6.
5.85 is 6.
All right.
6.2.
There we go, Rudy. That's where we're headed, buddy. So, and that's what I want to get at with this is what, Rudy's asked, what is your prediction for the next year for the interest rate? So, and we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail, but I want to answer your question directly. I think in the next 18 to 24 months, well, 12 to 18 months, that we're going to see at or around 5.5%. Hopefully a little lower. The problem with this, the problem with this, yeah, the problem, if you look at the data by itself and you look at the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, what they report, if they report correct information, then our inflation should be more like 2.3% right now instead of the 2.8. And what I mean by that is last month, we saw 6 straight weeks of the exact same number of first-time filing for unemployment, which is statistically impossible, especially when it was a round number. 175,000. Now keep this in mind. That is 50 different states that have many different agencies per state, all collectively came up to a number that ends in 0,000. 6 weeks in a row. Right? I'm not a statistician, but I think we probably all agree that that's close to a. I think what the BS stands for in the BLS. That is hysterical. I love it. So there's had some hanky-panky going there because they've been printing money for such a long time. They're trying to catch up. The problem that we have outside of the fudge numbers is Americans are not being smart consumers right now. And there's a reason why I use the Joneses as my example, is because the way the supply and demand works in correlation to inflation is that the Feds increase the rates to increase the supply. Because as things become more expensive, people have less of ability to buy. As supply increases, the demand goes down, competition starts over, and all of a sudden the price of goods go down. The problem is we're still spending like we got it, and we don't. I teach a class for high school kids with a financial advisor friend of mine, and he said something a couple of years ago that said 75% of Americans cannot afford a $400 emergency. 75%. Three of four people that you know don't have $400 in their pocket. Right? But we're still spending at these rates like we're printing money as ourselves. That's the reason why we drained $1 trillion in savings in 12 months. That's why credit card debt is at an all-time high. That's why buy now, pay later programs are at an all-time high right now. It's because people are trying to keep up with what they've been doing, and they're going to fall.
More expensive.
Yep, everything's more expensive. They're going to fall flat on their face. So what's the Fed say? Well, everybody's still spending, right? So how are we going to impact inflation? If everybody's still spending at this rate, do we hike it again? If we lower it, they're going to keep spending, right? So what's the solution? They're in a pickle there, right? If they started reporting the right numbers, we'll go back into here a little bit further, then we'd be close to 2.0 right now. But they're basically artificially keeping the rate we're there. So all that's to say, Rudy, I'd love to say in the next 12 to 16 months that we're going to be at or around 5.5% because we're seeing the jobs number. The JOLTS report came out yesterday. It was below expectations, was a good sign in the market. You can see reacted at 20 basis points. We've got 2 more jobs reports this week. The one on Friday is the one to watch. That is the BLS. And if that comes in lower than expectations, then that's going to help us out a lot. So we've got to watch the economy in relation to the jobs, and that's going to really dictate where we're at on interest rates. So that first Friday of every month, pay attention to it. Pay attention to what that BLS jobs report says. If it comes in lower than expectations, that's a good thing, and the Fed's going to start reacting to that. That's the only thing that's going to change our interest rates right now because Americans are spending out of control. Make sense? All right. So here we are today. I zoomed it in a little bit for you guys so you can kind of see. These horizontal lines are like the 100.5 and the 101 and the 101.5. These horizontal lines right here, these are called Fibonacci levels. It's a measure of variance in 2 points. Or here you can see 5 points. It usually creates a ceiling of resistance or a floor of resistance. And the reason why I say that, what's important is, as you can see from last night, right, let me look at the screen. Right here, we busted through a ceiling. So trends are important when it comes to finance. There's a higher probability that we're going to keep going up to that next ceiling, the 101 ceiling, than it is that we're going to reverse and come back down the other way. You can see that purple line going across. We busted through that 100-day average, moving average. We're above the 50-day moving average. We're above the 25-day moving average. And we're above the 200-day moving average. So these Fibonacci levels are really the only things that we need to cross to show that rates are going to improve. All right. I don't want to get buried down in that. Anastasia, I see your camera now. You got anything for me? Okay. So let's go through here. So here's a report that I can prepare for you that will help some of this argument. This is called a cost of waiting analysis. When somebody says, I'm waiting for rates to get better, give me a purchase price, give me a zip code, and I can create something like this for you in a few minutes. As you can see, This zip code, I pulled the number last night. The average house price here in this zip code is $445,331.
And 32223?
Yep. And you can see in that box that I have lighted at the top, if you wait 6 months, that's going to go up to 458. If you wait 1 year, it's going to go up to 472.
Buy now, refinance later.
There you go. What's the tagline? The cliche tagline these days?
You put me on the spot. Tell me.
Buy the house, date the rate.
Yeah, but yes, good Lord.
Yeah.
Buy the house, date the rate.
All right, you can also see with the circles at the bottom. Today we're at 7. 6 months, we're probably at 6.5. A year from now, we're at 6. To answer Rudy's conversation earlier. So while, yeah, a year from now, the rate's going to be 6%. The cost to buy it is going to be up 6%, right? So let's talk about this. And this is all 20% down example. I believe I did it 20% down, or I did 5% down. I did 5% down. So these are all 30 years, 5% down, conventional good scores. Now look at the payment difference over a 12-month period. Right now, it's about $35.10. A year from now, it's $34.18.
Yeah, interest rates affect your mortgage payment way more than the price.
Mm-hmm. And why is that?
Because it's on the total amount of the loan, the percentage.
Mm-hmm. Why does it a lower purchase price impact the monthly payment as much as the lower interest rate?
Because the interest rate is higher. If you could look at the total loan amount, the interest rate being a lot higher on that is way bigger of a percentage than it would be just in a 20,000. The percentage is way less.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at the whole price of the home, if you buy it for 20% more, but your interest rate's 1% higher, that's over the life. It's just doesn't. It's a very small percentage of the total value of the house compared to 1% of. Right? I'm not explaining it well, but
no, you were right on. Get your calculators out and think about this. $500,000 purchase versus a $490,000 purchase. Are you better off getting a $490 purchase from a monthly payment perspective, or are you better off taking the $500,000 purchase price with the seller buying your rate down by 1%?
higher price, percent down.
Mm-hmm. Why is that? Why is it better to, let me ask that difference. If you take that $10,000 difference, why does that $10,000 not really make a significant impact on the monthly payment? Generally speaking, we're dividing that out by 30 years, which is $360.
Yeah.
So you take $10,000 divided by 360, you're probably talking what's that, $27? $28?
You take that percentage over that total amount of the loan, and it's like
right. It's a big difference, right? And so keep this in mind. Them waiting 1 year is going to save them $92 a month. Okay. Conversely, them waiting that long, going to cost them 26 grand. You guys with me? So the property value goes up. You're paying more for the house. The interest rate's going down. So what's the math? You buy an ask. 12 months at 92 is 1,104. You talk about the cost of doing a refinance, you have to factor that into it when you're looking at the calculations. But in that time, the value is going to increase by 26 grand. if you subtract out the difference in monthly payment from a lower rate and the refinance, your buyer is still better off buying now at the higher rate because their net worth is going to be $21,000 more than if they
Equity
waited.
wise.
Correct. Net worth. Bottom line net worth. Right? That all makes sense? Yes? All right. So here's an example of what that report looks like. Like I said, if you have a buyer that's on the fence and this is their argument that they are waiting for the rates to come down, text me at 813-253-9151 and give me a loan amount, a purchase price, and give me a zip code or even a specific street. And I can prepare this report for you and you can have this conversation with your clients and show them mathematically why it is better to buy now than wait for the rates to go down a year from now. So going back to this chart, and the Jones is saying, I'm waiting for rates to get better. Do you feel like you are able to refute this now? Do you feel like you could easily have this conversation with your buyers that are waiting for the rates to come down? Yeah? Tiffany?
So my question to that is, with the refinance, you still will be up, even with the cost of refinance. In that situation, you'd still be up. How do I ask this question? So would you tell somebody who bought down their rate, if they could buy now, if they bought down their rate, then whoever bought it, however they worked that out, and then still refinance in a year when the rates drop, how would that affect somebody? They would still be up in equity, but the refinance cost is what percent of the loan amount?
Probably about 2%.
2% of the loan. Okay. So would you suggest doing that? I mean, that's I would think so, because it's the beginning of the loan. You're not even touching your yes, that word. What is it?
Equity?
Yes. No. You're not even, if
Touching
you
your cash out of pocket expense.
no. You are, you're not, you're only paying interest for that first year anyway. You're not touching your, I can't think of, yes, good Lord. Yes, the principal at all at that point. So refinancing would be better in that situation anyway, because you still have equity. It'll be 2% of the loan, but over the life of the loan, that still might be better if it's 1% less.
Mhm.
But if you buy down a rate, how long does that last?
So that is great. So you're going like into the weeds with what I do, right?
Yeah, I don't want to do that now, but that's what it like.
No, I can do that very easily. So that's exactly right. We look at that, or at least loan officers should look at that when they're factoring in whether or not it makes sense to refinance. Most loan officers don't look at, all right, this is the time I've been in this mortgage. This is how much I've paid towards principal. More importantly, this is how much I've paid in interest. So do I really want to start over? And that factor has to be included into the formula, in my opinion.
Right.
Some other people might not agree with it. Now, as far as
And
a year from now,
yeah, because
I bought last year and I'm going to refinance next year. Yeah, there's going back to 30%.
That's almost a 2% difference, though.
Yeah.
So if it's interest only for the first year anyway, is that something that you really do want to do, or do you just and when you buy down a rate, is it for a amount of time, or is it for the life of the loan?
It depends. So you could buy down the rate for the life of the loan, which I don't recommend doing right now. If we know that rates are going
down,
we're going to refinance.
Because you would tell them to refinance anyway. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
I'm telling everybody right now, whatever loan we get you right now is a Band-Aid loan.
Okay. Okay. That's that. Yeah. That's a way easier way of simplifying.
Yeah. The one thing that, and I don't want to give away my proprietary information, but I'm gonna give you a little secret. So by law, when you refinance, you're required to have a full calendar month without a monthly payment. not 30 days, not
That
31
covers your
days.
I mean, that almost covers your refinance cost.
Yeah, so not 30 days, not 31 days, a full calendar month. So what do? I refinance all my customers the first week of the month because that full calendar month doesn't start till the following month.
So they have 2 months of not paying their mortgage.
So times, oh man,
So what was their mortgage payment on that?
I think it was like 3,400,
Yes, they actually make money refinancing.
3,500. They're keeping $7,000 in their pocket and it's only costing them $4,000,
Yeah. I like that.
right?
That's a good way to look. Yeah, I never looked at it that way.
And that's why I like the 2-1 buy down or the 1-1 buy down or the 1-0 buy down so much, because it is a temporary buy down. And whatever we don't use goes back later on to reduce their principal balance. It's not thrown away. But if you buy down a rate for the entire life of the loan, anything that happened that you paid for after your refinance is thrown away. Make sense? If I bought it down, if I paid $10,000 to buy a rate down for 30 years, but I refinanced in 12 months, then I just threw away 29 years worth of money that I paid for that I'm not using.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the temporary buy down makes a lot more sense because we can get it down. It doesn't really cost the seller much more than you would normally negotiate anyway on a regular transaction. And the buyer gets the relief in the payment right now, and they get to basically renegotiate their purchase price a year from now because whatever's left over goes back into their principal. Okay?
So could you, no, never mind. I'll say it.
We can talk about it after if you like.
Yeah,
You can make it up.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So, all right. I'm waiting for a better deal to come along. Here's our address, right? 445,331 asking price, like we talked about, is the average here. If you look at the bottom left corner, it says $10,000 over asking price. I cleverly call this report the bid over asking report. So if you were to say, all right, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I know you love this house. It's a super competitive price point. There's probably going to be 4 or 5 people in line to make an offer on this. And, you know, it really shows really well. Really shows really well. I suggest that you come in aggressive because there's a bidding war and the listing agent suggests that we put our best offer in. It's important to have that conversation, and it really eases the conversation for you as a buyer's agent to show them this math. And again, give me a zip code, give me a purchase price, and I can make this calculation for you and get it to you in a matter of minutes. But if you look at the top box next to the Mac with V Pizza, that $10,000, it's only going to take them 90 days to recoup overpaying for that house. So if they love this house, have to have it, you know you're in a bidding war, or you know that you got to put your first best offer out there, then what's 3 months? Is it really that big a deal? Show them to your client and show them over the next 5 years, we're going to make you 83 grand. Don't wait, be aggressive. All right, same scenario, but looking at the bottom left corner again, we're going up $25,000. Let's say it's a $300,000 house, everybody and their brothers, you know, bidding on it, and like it's got a mother-in-law suite in the back and a pool, and like you've got clients that have 4 kids and a mom that lives in the house, right? They gotta have this house. They put $25,000 on it, and the break-even point's about a year. Now, I can't say, or you can't say to the buyer that this is a decision that you would make for them. This is a decision they have to make for themselves. If this is your forever home, if you plan on being in this house for over 5 years, maybe 5, 10 years, wait till your fourth kid graduates from high school, then heck yeah, it makes sense. Because you're breaking even on that $25,000 in 12 months just because of appreciation alone. Right? Take that one step further. Bottom left-hand corner again, 50 grand. 50 grand over asking. Right now, the break even's about 33 months. Okay? I don't know if I would advise on that, but it really just kind of depends on the circumstance, and ultimately it's the buyer's decision. But I wanted to throw it out there so you can see this, because in 2022, I'm about to ask a question. Anybody onliners? 2022, do you know what the average American overpaid for their purchases in 2022? I'm sorry, 2021. Anyone? Got any guessers? How many dollars over asking price did the average American across the entire United States overpay for their purchase in 2021? That put you guys to sleep? Are we gonna have to do community jumping jacks? $57,000. The average American paid $57,000 over asking price in 2021. So the people that did that in 2021, here we are 2024, they just made their money back already. In fact, it was a little bit higher because the appreciation was a little bit higher in 2022 and last year than this estimate. All right, so fourth quarter of last year, we had about 800,000 purchase mortgages. You and I both know that every person that we come in contact with is not going to get qualified or is not going to purchase. But let's just be conservative and say 50%. I think that we all be jumping for cartwheels if 50% of the people that we work with bought a house, right? Well, let's just say 50%. So that's 750 times 4, right? Well, that 750 times 2 is 1,500, 1.5. That 1.5 times 4 is about 6 million. That means there's 6 million people currently in the market trying to buy these 480,000 homes. That's a lot of people. Right now, 6 million people in the market trying to buy. Data and history suggests that when we lower interest rates by 1%, which we just talked about is going to happen here in the near future, should happen here in the near future, I should say, 5 million people enter the market. For every 1% rates go down, 5 million people enter the market. So you take the 6 million we got now, you lower rates by 1 million, by 1%, we've got 11 million people trying to buy 480,000 homes. You see the report here. These reports are in the rears. Let's see. Laser pointer. Why can't I see my laser pointer? There we go. Right here. 408,000. You think you might have a bidding war with 11 million people trying to buy 480,000 homes? I think you might. How to avoid a bidding war. We have a program. We're happy to come back and teach a class on our Cash to Keys product that we pay cash for your buyers to remove the mortgage contingency let's say you got that $300,000 purchase, you got everybody and their brother making offers. We can make a cash offer instead of putting a conventional mortgage on the contract. Think you might win some contracts that way? What about somebody that needs to sell their house prior to making their purchase? Think they might be better off paying cash than to submit an offer contingent on a pending sale? We can talk about that at a later date, but this is going to be something that once we see 11 million people falling for 500,000 homes, you're going to want to be able to pay cash to compete against other mortgages so you win more contracts and stop wasting your time making multiple offers on multiple properties like we did in 2021. We can come back, like I said, I teach this class down at the Board of Realty. Next time I'm teaching this class is August, but if you guys want me to come back and teach it to the office, I'm happy to do so. It's also a certification, and you get cool little marketing materials that we can add to it for you. All right. Net worth. What percentage of net worth comes from real estate? Any idea? From owning real estate. So when you look at somebody's net worth, what percentage of their net worth comes from real estate? And while you think about that and enter your thoughts into the chat box, look at the little graphic I have. In order to be in the top 50%, you only got to be worth 500,000. To be in the top percent, your net worth only has to be in 800,000. The top 5 is $1 million. To be in the top 1%, it's 10 million. Each and every one of you, if you're not already, can easily get into that top 5 with a little elbow grease, some training, and some direction to focus where you're going. I'm trying to stall. We're trying to refute the question of everything's too expensive, but what is the percentage of net worth that comes from real estate? Don't have any guesses? All right, you guys are gonna make me spill the beans. 66%. 66% of net worth comes from home equity. I have this conversation every single week. It don't matter what we get into. Let's just get into the game. You know what? Curb your expectation, buy something below your means so we can stack some cash and grow your net wealth. And you're not living check to check. This is going to be a temporary thing, and we're either going to rent this out in 3 to 5 years, or we're going to sell it for the equity so we can get a bigger and better house, 3 to 5 years from now, and get them back into your funneling system so we can do another deal again. Right? There's a huge difference in net wealth that just comes from equity itself. How much more net wealth do homeowners have compared to renters? What do you think that is? It's a multiple, like 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 40 times. How much more net wealth do you think a homeowner has versus a renter? I was a renter and you gave me this statistic, I would listen to you loud and clear. 40 times. People that own homes have 40 times more net wealth than a renter. Does that compel an argument? When somebody says, I want to rent, or you look at New York Times fluffed report yesterday where they try to prove the numbers that, it's better off to rent. Tell me 40 times, I'm going to be 40 times more rich by owning a house than I am renting. It's all the data I need. All right. Everything's too expensive. You know what, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you're absolutely right. It is too expensive. It is too expensive to rate. Don't wait. Get into the game now. We think values are going to drop. I love this one. Love this one. We think values are going to drop. Anybody know who this is in the picture? Not the guy on the floor. For all the young bucks, you've probably seen him because he's been in the buzz lately. But as I was growing up, this guy was the scariest human being I've ever seen on TV. Mike Tyson. Any one of you, would you ever get in the ring with Mike Tyson? I'm just going to assume that nobody has their hand raised right now. Because I know I wouldn't get into the ring with Mike Tyson for no seconds, not 10 seconds. Like, I would not get in the ring with this guy. And the reason why I bring that up is I look at real estate and I look at values and I checked what the number is. I checked what his record is. Like, so if real estate values had a win-loss record out of the last 80 years, you know what that record would be? 72-7-1. Would you fight anybody that has won 72 times and lost 7? Probably not, right? But when we analyze the data, it actually tells even a worse story, right? So let's look at the top box, 1943 to 1947. That 5 years, we had 118% growth in 5 years. Look at the bottom right number, 2020 to 2022. 2020, we went up 10%. 2021, we went up 19%, right? So people are saying, seeing this trends, there's no way we can keep up with 19%. Well, you're absolutely right, we can. But it doesn't change our situation. So what if in 1946, you said the same thing? 1946, you said, you know what? I'm waiting for values to drop. The values got to drop. You know how long you're waiting for values to drop from 1946? 43 years. You lost a lifetime of buying, waiting for rates to drop. 43 years. That's insane, right? And oh, by the way, look at 1990, when values actually were depreciated. It was only 1%, right? And look at 1991. It was flat. So if you would have bought in 46, you made a ton of money. Look at the 70s. Same thing. 1974 to 79. It's 93%. Again, if you waited for rates to go down to 1979, values went up 24 of the next 26 months. It's insane. But when people talk about values and they think about our current situation, looking at 2021, 22, 23, they often go back to what? 2007. This is what everybody likes to talk about. We talked about values. We talked about equity. We talked about supply and demand. We talked about foreclosures. We talked about bad loans. We talked about all these reasons why the market collapsed and all those reasons why it shouldn't happen again. But let's just say those 5 years didn't happen. Like, was your money safe in real estate? If you took those 5 years out. Over the last 80 years, you only would have had 2 years of depreciation or flatness, and it was only 1%. That sounds like a win-win-win. Like, how can you lose in real estate just looking at these data? Does that make sense? All right, change in home value over 10 years. Buying and holding for 10 years has resulted in a profit every single year since 1942, except one, 2006. right? So if you take any 10 years at any price point, right, you'll see this as example per 100,000 in the white part of each column. You'll see what your profit is over that time. So you take 1968, let's just say $100,000 property for simple math, it's 193. In 1978, went up about what, 13 grand, 17 grand. You go to 88, 20%. You know, that number's going up. So you're looking at the 10%, 10 years in a row of profit. Average person staying in a home, how long? 5, 7 years? If you keep that asset for 10 years, you're making some good money. All right, this is the values from last year. I couldn't get, I didn't have time to work on this to get the new months in, but I wanted to show you guys the end of the year. Look at all those all-time highs, everything highlighted in yellow. These are all-time highs, month by month, of appreciation. And this is a single year. Now you got 4 companies that really do the baseline for us when it comes to value. Case-Shiller is what they call the gold standard. They're the ones that everybody pays attention to. What they say is good. You know, 2023's pace was at 6%. You look at the other 3 guys, they're at 7%. Well, guess what? If you average those 4, it was exactly where we ended up for 2023, which is about 6.4. Now, this just came out this past week, for March, right? It's in the rears. We're seeing year over year, 6.5%, but a 0.3 uptick per month. So since December, we had 0.2. Looking at the top section, 0.2, 0.4, 0.5, 0.3. That's 6.11, 1.4, right? So we've already accumulated 1.4 of appreciation over a quarter, roughly a quarter. And we're not even into the busy time yet. So if you look back, that's not too unlike what we saw last year as well. All right, so we think values are going to drop. Do you think you have a way of refuting that now? You bring up Mike Tyson, 72-7-1. I think it's very compelling. All right, so we should by now have the ability. If somebody says any one of these 5 things, we should have the ability to respond to them, get them off the fence, call me, text me, email me for one of those reports that we talked about, send it to them, and convince them why mathematically waiting makes 0 sense. Good stuff? All right. So let's go back into stuff. How do we win in 2024? Renters can afford to buy. Renovation, purchase, cash the keys, 2-1 buy now, targeted marketing, utilizing social media. We're going to fly through some of this stuff so that we can get to the nuts and bolts of what I want to show you and how we get some major wins. So here's your report card as of last night, and I can print this out for you at any zip code. You give me a zip code, as you can see on the top left, right by the map. This is 32223. And at the top right in the circle, you can see that the medium home price is that 445, 331 that we've been talking about, right? We can also see in that second bubble that just popped up that our cumulative appreciation over the next 5 years is about 94 grand. They're basing that off of a 4.2 average per year, which I think is low, but we'll wait and see what happens with the market and how the market responds. Because once those 11 million people come into the market, when we hit that 6.5 or below space, we should see the values increase more than 4.2 over the next 12 months. So that's all I got to say about that. Now, to me, one of the most compelling things here is this section, homeowners and renters. In this zip code and surrounding areas, it's not just the 322 area. I don't know how wide of a net this cast for 32223, but according to the report, there are 448,000 renters currently in this zip code and surrounding zip code that can afford a $445,000 purchase right now. It's almost 500,000 people. How many of you are going after first-time homebuyers right now? Or seasoned people that started off going after first-time homebuyers, but then stopped doing the work. Look at what I got circled. There is 500 and almost 80,000 homeowners right now that can afford that price point. That is crazy. All right, so here's a little ad. Tease you a little bit. Renters can afford to buy. Here's a little ad we have. I'm happy to send this to you afterwards. Stop renting now. If you pay more than $2,500 a month in rent, you could be in a beautiful single-family home. Mortgage programs with as little as 1% down, up to 10-15 down payment assistance if you have not owned a home during the last 3 years. Keys to your new homes are waiting. Call now for a pre-approval. StopRentingDown.com. This is a simple ad you put out there. Share it on Facebook, and throw $20 at it, and you start building your buyers list. Danielle is still with us. She doesn't even know that she has this marketing piece ready for her. So look at renting. Look at this ad, right? On the top corner of this ad or this marketing piece, you've got. So if you slide down to $2,800 a monthly rent, and then you go over to the third column after 5 years, somebody renting at $2,800 a month is going to throw away $168,000 over the next 5 years. They're also going to lose out on $144,000 of appreciation that they would have had they bought now instead of rented. That's a $300,000 loss or opportunity cost, depending on how you want to pivot that conversation. It's a $300,000 swing. If you came to me and said, Michael, why are you renting? It's easy. I've got $2,800 a month. It's easy for me to pay. No biggie. I don't have any headaches. Michael, do you realize over the next 5 years, you could be $300,000 richer just by owning a house instead of renting? I guarantee you, I perk up. I sit in my chair. My shoulders lean towards you. I got my hands folded in my lap. I am listening with both ears and my mouth shut. You tell somebody this, you show somebody this, they will listen to you. They will want to know how to get it done. $578 renters who can afford $440,000 purchase. You guys got what, about 150 agents here? That sound about right? Anybody still with me? Or did I put everybody to sleep?
We have about 106 agents.
106?
Yes.
All right. 578 divided by 106. Oops. 78 divided by 106. That means if every agent at Eagles World marketed the exact same people at the exact same time, each one of you would have 5,400 leads. Every one of you. What's your capture rate? Every time you get an application, how many of them close? Anyone know? Should know your own number. Let's just say it's half of 1%. You get 5,000 applications while marketing to the exact same people at the exact same time. And you only capture half of 1% of those. You think that you're a good enough salesperson to capture half of 1%? That's 26 extra deals this year on top of what you're doing. 26 more. Let me see a show of hands. Who wants to get in the ring with Mike Tyson and who doesn't want to close another 26 deals this year? On the side. Just by going after this one demographic alone. You got that many people locally that can afford that price point, go after them. Not all of them are to close. But half of 1% being 26 deals. You know, when I go after agents, I bucket them into 3 categories: a whale, a tuna, and a tilapia. A whale is anyone that does over 24 units a year. You could be a whale just by going after this. Hopefully that's striking a chord with you guys. I've already got it built. This screenshot that you see of this first-time homebuyer guide is 47 pages. I have PowerPoint presentations already built. I got financial planners already built. I've got your part of this presentation already built. You just have to market it, get some butts in the seats, and we're going to start converting leads. Anyone know who this guy is? Wilfredo Pareto. The Pareto Principle. Ever heard of the Pareto Principle? The observation that although there are many causes for an observed phenomenon, it is often the case that the small subset of those causes are responsible for most of that observation. Anybody know what that is? Simply put, it's the 80-20 rule. The Pareto Principle is the 80-20 rule. Doesn't matter what you're talking about. Doesn't matter if you're talking about the amount of phone calls you make. Doesn't matter if you talk about the agents in the office that are producing versus the ones that are not. Doesn't matter if you're talking about the amount of clients that you close, from what you take out, anything that you look at, chances are the 80-20 rule applies. Personal actions, employees, products, services, customers. 80% of what you do is not making you money right now. Getting stuck in your emails is not making you money right now. Thinking about maybe posting something on social media is not making you money now. What makes money? Getting on the street, doing door knockers, calling absentees, calling FSBOs, contacting and touching your database, right? You know what the 80-20 rule is in real estate? What percentage of the agents are doing 80% of the volume? It's alarming. It's actually 94.6. 6% of the realtors across the entire country are doing 94% of the volume. And I just got done telling you that a whale does 24 a year. And I just showed you how you could do 26 a year. So you could be a whale. You could be in the top 6% of all realtors across the entire country just by going after these people right here. Is that good stuff? Did I get you pumped up yet? Hopefully, I'm over here in this room shouting by myself. I'm standing up and walking around with my coffee, my Cuban coffee, and having a good old time. All right. Buy versus rent comparison. Again, another report I can prepare for you. Very easy for me to prepare. You know, here it is. You can see high equals World Realty. Here's your buy versus rent comparison. Did this last night. Over the next 9 years, here's the gain in equity. Here's the cash flow difference. Here's the tax benefit. Here's the cost to sell. You know, later on, here's the amortization gain. Here's the cash flow difference. $50,000 difference in cash flow over the next 9 years. I can prepare this for you in a few minutes. So if you have anybody that you want to share this with, or have a lot of somebody's that you want to share it with, just let me know and I'll be happy to prepare for you. I just need a zip code and I need a purchase price. All right, renovation. We have a certification, you get a renovation. Now, we've all seen Joanna Gaines, we've all seen the Property Brothers. This is not just how do you do a renovation purchase, which is part of it, right? We teach you how to do this, we get you certified and do it so you can market it yourself. But what about that appraisal that comes in short and the seller's not willing to budge? What about that inspection that comes back unfavorable and the seller's not willing to negotiate? What do? Either your client's paying more for a property than it's worth, or you kill the deal. Or if you work with Annie Mac Home Mortgage, who's the 5th largest renovation lender in the entire country, that you probably never heard of, we can immediately just flip that deal to a renovation loan. We might have to extend the contract 2 weeks or so, but you're getting the deal saved instead of losing the deal. And it's too hard to get deals in the door. There's no reason to lose it. So if you have a deal like this, you want to get certified in this, let me know. We're happy to talk through you with this. And oh, by the way, we do VA purchases as well, renovation loans. See how I did that? I'm like Superman. Bam, 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 bam. See that? I didn't get a smile there, Anastasia. I thought I'd get a smile out of the Army fatigues. All right, cash the keys. I already told you about that. Convert more offers, saves you a ton of money. This is a great thing to add to your buyer's presentation now, that you can not only get people conditionally approved prior to finding property, but they can also pay cash. Definitely, I would add that to your buyer's presentation now that everything's going on in the news. 2-1 buy down, we talked about there. You know, you could save a bunch of money. It's like $400 savings a month negotiating the 2-1 buy down into the purchase price. Then you are saving that $10,000 divided out by 30 years. All right. The Fed, we talked about this earlier. I'm going to zoom through this. It consists of a lot of people, 12 different Federal Reserve banks, the people that were appointed, and they're supposed to make decisions for us financially. The people that are static are the 7 above, who vote every year, plus a rotation of those different banks that you can see in those circles annually that vote. So it's not the same people making all of the decisions, but the majority of them. Now, the reason why that's important, going back to Rudy's question earlier, is that of the 19 people, you've got 10, 15, 16 of the 19 people says that these are the projection. This was in December, that these are what their projection, the rate cuts would be over the next 12 months. And I think this is going to lean heavy. And again, we're seeing people not stop spending, so it's messing up the timeline. But you look at the trajectory, it's still there. Now, you see the box 2024. This is the 15 of the 19 people that we said are going to make cuts. Fed members, that current Fed members said we're going to make cuts. If you look over here, where's my laser? Look over here, you see the rates, right? Now look at 2025. This is where these current Fed members that are voting on what happens to us say where they think this rates are going to be. So they're saying in 2025, in December, they said in 2025, we might actually be, the Fed fund rate might actually be below 4%. 2026, the majority of them think that will be at the Fed fund rate around 3.5 to 3. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that we're going to be back in the threes interest rates wise, because you got about 2% margin and you got to add on top of the Fed fund rate. But that puts us at that 5% rate that we're talking about in 2 years. Right? These are the people that are making the decision, and this is what they're telling us. PCE, we talked about it before. We don't need to talk about it again. I'm going to skip through all this stuff. Here's something that's good. So here's the things that make up this is the CPI. It's a similar report, a bunch of different services. I like the CPI report, the Consumer Price Index, because it's heavier on real estate. You can see here, CPI on the left, look at that blue area, that light blue area. 42% of that report, that inflation report, is based off of housing, which is really what's important to us. Now, you look at the PCE, see how much more balanced it is between all those sectors. That's why the Fed looks at that more closely than I do, being a mortgage guy, as an indication of where we're going to be in inflation and where our things going. Now, one thing I want to show you, I don't want to get too deep into this. One thing I want to show you, let me see something. Okay. I want to show you that there's a direct correlation between rates and the Consumer Price Index. That white line is the 30-year mortgage rate. The tan line, that is the CPI report. See how rates, look at that January 2022. See how rates started moving upward quickly? That came in reaction way later than the CPI report was telling us that inflation was going. Inflation started increasing there right around February of 2021. You see that? Where that red line really spiked, it made that really spiked climb. Took them 12 months to react to that spike in inflation, which is one of the things that I have a problem with the Fed. They're slow to act. There is a direct correlation. You can see that the inflation is going down towards that bottom right. You can see how the 30-year mortgage are going down as a result, right? If you want to know how it's calculated, every month you see in that box, you just add those 0.6, that 0.6, that 0.5, you add all those together, and that's how we come up with the inflation number. The reason why I'm telling you all this is the other indication that shows you why we think what we think. Shelter makes up 44%. This is a little bit old, but I think the number is actually higher than this right now. But this was as of like January, November. So this is what is currently happening with shelter. We're at about 2%. Shelter is what I would pay in rent right now. What if I would pay in rent if I were to rent my own house that I own right now, and what I would pay in rent to rent a hotel, right? You add those three things together, that what makes up the shelter, and that's almost half of our entire inflation number, okay? When it comes to the CPI. We know it's at 2.6, but yet you look at the reports and we're still reporting it at 6.5, right? We're going off a 12-month-old data, even though we have the data right now that says right now we're at 2.6. So this is why I said when you look at the number, I know that if we were in real time, the lag effect of 1.7, we should be in the low twos right now from inflation, just because of this one number. Because you can see this spike right here coming down. That is this arch right here. See how much slower it is? This peak and this peak is the exact same number, just a different time period. That makes sense? That's why we know where it's headed, because we're already there 12 months in advance. Okay? 2-1 buy now, we talked about that. So that means right now, you can buy the homes of your dreams today. You can negotiate the purchase price and get a discount on it today. You can get the 5.5% rate that everybody's waiting on today. And then guess what? Later on, you're going to be able to refinance basically for free. And the seller paid for it. Like, sign me up for that. Get the home of your dream at the rate you want it. Get it right now and ride out this equity that's going to come from this wave of bidding wars once we get below 6.5% in interest rates. All right. I teach a bunch of classes. We'll talk about this at another date. If you're interested in taking some classes, I'm happy to show them for you. Orges and Lori are going to talk about kind of creating a curriculum for you guys as well, if you guys are interested. Here is my team. I'm not just a solopreneur, but I've got 5 other people on my team that work on just my deals. That's my phone number, my cell phone number. I don't have a work phone. I don't have a personal phone. They are the same. So feel free to text me, call me at my cell phone. If you're interested in applying now, you can do a little screenshot and you get the thing off there. Here's a bunch of ways to get business right now. If you talk to the old school people in the business, FSBOs, expireds, absentees, if you want to grind out and get some deals immediately, this is where you can spend your time. It's a grind, but it works. If you're not in BNI, it's something to consider. And social media, you know, it's becoming a big deal. So we're going to go into that and talk about growing your business through social media. The goal of this in the next 14 minutes is to show you how to build a buyer's list for peanuts on the dollars that you control, and you can put marketing dollars into it at your leisure whenever you need to get your buyers, more buyers in the door. Sound good? If you're like me, when I first got into social media, I got back into social media years ago. I actually got off of social media about 5 or 6 years ago. At that time, I had over 7,000 Instagram followers. I had over 10,000 LinkedIn followers. I had, 3,000 or 4,000 Facebook followers. I was getting about a deal a month absolutely for free. It was very time consuming, 100% ROI, definitely worth the effort. However, I did not like being part of the social engineering experience. So I kind of bowed out of that industry and marketing campaign. But to each their own. I'm getting back into it, but I pay somebody else to kind of do my social media for me. But if you're doing it yourself, you know that it's time consuming. What I did, you have your own methodology. What I did is I scheduled it out with Buffer. You can do it through Canva. You do it through Hootsuite or various other different companies. I spent every Sunday night from 10 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. and I made 3 posts per day for the entire week. So 21 posts. I made it an hour and a half one day a week, Sunday night. So I started my week with my mind in the right motion, right? And then I was not on social media for that entire week until after that. In fact, I was never on social media because I did it through the Buffer app and it's free. Canva, if you don't have Canva, get it. The free version is cool. The paid version is like $100. You can literally use their ChatGPT to write a book. You can use their service to create illustrations for your book that don't exist through ChatGPT. You can publish your book through Canva, and you can sell your book through Canva. You can sell a book you didn't even write, you didn't do the artwork on, and make money on it, all in that one place for $100 a year. I mean, real estate aside, that's pretty sweet. But you can schedule stuff out there. You can schedule stuff out on Facebook also. I liked, having it on Buffer and kind of, that was the thing at the time when I was doing it. All right. Zillow and Realtor.com. A lot of people in the industry spend $1,000, $2,000 a month getting leads from them. The problem with these leads is the conversion rate's low. You're probably talking about 2% conversion, 3% if you're amazing, but probably that 1 to 3% conversion at a all right. So Anastasia said, don't use Hootsuite. So Canvas Suite, Buffer's good. I never hear from anyone, neither one of them. Zillow and Realtor.com. What's the problem with those guys? Why don't they have the success? The problem with it is they're tricking people to fill out the information. I'm going on Zillow. I want to know what today's rates are. I get, well, are you looking to buy or refinance? And you click on the next button. Is this a purchase? Is this a primary residence or a second home or investment property? And you click on the next button and the next button and the next button. You click on 20 different buttons and you still don't get the answer that you came on there originally before. So by the time that the mortgage person or the realtor call this person, they're like, dude, all I wanted to know was what the rates were. They were tricked. That's why you see Donald Ducks at 555, 55. That's why you see bogus names and bogus numbers, bogus emails, and you just wasted a ton of money to get 1 to 3% conversion. So what we're here to talk about over the next 10 minutes is targeted marketing, right? Marketing that works, marketing that has a 70 to 80% conversion rate. Even let's just say you're going to spend the same amount of money, $1,000 a month. Would you rather have a 2% conversion rate or an 80% conversion rate? It's a no-brainer, right? All right, here's an ad. Stop running now. Going back to that marketing piece that I made for Daniela. Same information. Eagles World, licensed realtor, free 15-minute platinum pre-qualification. Click on this link. All right, if you post this out on social media, people aren't getting tricked. The people who click on it want to click on it. Right? They're not being forced to click on it because Zillow or Realtor.com is tricking them to fill out some information. Right? It takes you to a landing page when you click on that link. This is my landing page. Rentbusters.com. Right? It's simple. It is a squeeze page. It's squeezing information on a very simple, easy to read page. So they clicked on the ad. It takes them here to my webpage to build my buyers list. And then I, share this with agents that send me business. And if they clicked on the ad and then they filled this information out, do you think these people are serious? You think these people want to hear from me? Or do you think that they reluctantly filled this out? They want this information. That's why the conversion rate's so high. You might not get as many clicks, But if they're not clicking, you're not paying. So that's a good thing. So I could throw 20 bucks a week or 100 bucks a week or 500 bucks a week, depending on how much volume I need to supplement. Here's a cool ad, rentbreakers.com. It's one that I use, right? Who doesn't see themselves floating in that lazy river with a pina colada right now? Right? I know I want to hang out in that lazy river with a pina colada right now. It's hot out. But the picture, to my point, the picture is what attracts people. So when you make that ad on your pool home, it's hot. People want to own a pool. Steak, but people want to own a pool, right? This is what people look at. You put a fancy photo of a cool house that people want to look at, it will stop and grab their attention. Then it's up to them whether or not they're going to read what you wrote and click on the link. But again, they click on that, goes to my squeeze page, and it's first name, last name, email, phone number, zip code. That's it. You don't want a bunch of fields in there that makes them think it's a lot of work. Then they won't fill it out. Make it simple. Here's another one. Landing pages, like I said, they don't force you to enter information. It's voluntary in nature. It says they're raising their hand and say, I want this. But it can't just be, here's the page. You got to have a call to action. You need help selling your house. Is buying a new home contingent upon selling your current home? Understand your options. That doesn't really kind of give me a call to action. Contact us, fill out to schedule a free 15-minute platinum qualification consultation. What a platinum qualification consultation is, we can get them conditionally approved even without a property to purchase. So let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's look at people that are in your business that are doing it. They're winning. Mike Bjorkman, awesome agent, right? Instant property evaluation. What's your home worth? I don't care how many times I get this information, I want to read it. If 10 realtors sends me a property evaluation, I'm going to read every single one of them. If you send me an email telling me about the same thing that somebody else pays for in a newsletter, I'm probably not going to read it. But I guarantee you, I want to know my property value every single time, even if I just saw it last week, right? It's got a simple squeeze page. This is a very simple one to make, and it works. But let's look at this because he's a good example of how to do it right. Team Bjorkman. You're on a team, right? You're in Eagle World. Whether you're working as a team inside of Eagle World or you are working as an individual at Eagles World, you're still part of a team. You're still part of the Eagle World team. So Team Bjorkman, Team Cancio, right? Posted by Michael Bjorkman, posted by Michael Cancio. That says something. Psychologically, it sends a different message to the person who's reading it. And you got to grab the attention. Talk about social media, I have a social media class. The first thing you got to do is hook. If you don't have a strong hook, you're not going to get the likes. Then you show the problem, then you show how you're the solution. It is hook, problem, solution, right? This is similar with these ads. When you put these together and post them out on social media, you got to grab their attention. Spring is right around the corner and it's time to get your home's value. You will be surprised at the current market trends. It creates some interest by challenging their beliefs. They have a belief of what they think the current market trends in, but Mike's telling them that you'll be surprised. If you're thinking of selling, use this site to get started. You're inviting them to a call of action. If you're thinking about selling, use my site. Click on the link below, right? You will receive a market valuation immediately. We will call and set up a home consultation as soon as we get your info, right? That is setting expectation. I am telling you what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to do it, right? You actually create instant credibility just by telling somebody you're going to do something that you're planning on doing anyway, right? But it's very compelling when you look at a message to set great expectation. And then you want to foreshadow your success, just like vision boards, just like starting your day with affirmations and positive thinking. You go into Orchard's office. I haven't even stepped foot in there, but I already know it's surrounded by positive messages all around it, right? You got to foreshadow that success. You got to see, and your buyer and your potential client needs to see the vision of what they want and how you're the solution for that, right? Then you put a cool pic. I totally want to sit in that cabana drinking a margarita right now, right? It's a cool photo. It's a cool house. It's a cool pool. And who doesn't want a cabana, in their backyard, right? So the anatomy of a great ad is just this. And then clear local headline, no tricks, no gimmicks. Santa Clara, Clarita, house value. That's what he said. And he's doing this property evaluation. That is his way of funneling people, right? So again, don't reinvent the wheel. Look at Lori Ballin. She crushes it in Vegas. You don't see her picture anywhere on her brand. What do you see big and bold and fat? Her phone number, right? She's got a cool logo, Team Ballin. You can see it there, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just go look at successful agents out there and do what they're doing. Don't copycat, don't plagiarize, but just see what they're doing. Here's one of our ads for sale. Cheap houses for sale in Vegas. Cheap houses for sale in Mandarin, right? It's simple. Look at that. It's clip art. It's not even a sexy photo. It's clip art. Cheap houses for sale in Mandarin. Click. Right? Here's some ads. We can give this to you. We can talk about it. We can help you create things. Move with date sensitivity. If you list now, I can help sell your property for highest and best value if you act before 4th of July, before Thanksgiving, before the New Year's, XYZ. That's the example of a date-sensitive ad. Empty nester specials. Right now is a good time. A lot of people are graduating from high school. Empty nester special. Put something out there. Hey, if you act now, take advantage of the summer months when people are dying to move to St. Johns County or Duval County, whatever the case is. I can sell it for highest and best price. Simple, easy. There are going to be empty nesters out there that will respond. Here's what the ad looks like. SellyourBigHouse.com, whatever your URL is, doesn't matter. Rate your own, build it once. Here's highest price before Thanksgiving. Again, it is a time-sensitive approach. So you got stop ready now, off-market properties, fixer-uppers, move with your pet, first-time home buyers, free staging analysis before you list, like Bjorkman does, the valuation. All these things are great ads that have to have a destination, and that destination is a squeeze page. Squeeze page is different than a landing page. A landing page is just taking you to your website. A squeeze page is squeezing information from you. It is grabbing your information and sending it to a CRM so you can capture their information and utilize it to convert into leads. Secret is tailored design, user-friendly process, conversion optimization. Here's the company that helped build they built my squeeze page for me. And here's an example of some of the others. They do customized template design, dual capture forms, mobile responsiveness, basic analytic integration. It's great. They do a good job. I thought the marketing that they put together for this was very clever with the squeeze page and 11s. Shows their creativity. If you're interested in talking to them, I'm not trying to sell them at all. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't change my financial stability. They don't pay me to do this, but this is who I used. So I could speak from example of the type of work that they do. All right, so that's pretty much all I have. All I ask is that, or just Lori and I ask, is that you take a second to scan this QR code on the screen so you can help us create a curriculum of things that you want to learn. Not stuff that we're going to bore you to death. We want you to learn stuff and add tools to your tool belt to help you be successful. You might be successful already, but maybe there's one thing that you really want to learn this year that you haven't been doing, and it'd be nice to have somebody kind of slam dunk present that to you. Anastasia, you take that screenshot yet? Nice. Okay. Yeah, fill this out. What I'll do is I'll take all the information from you. I'll create a report for Orges and Lori to look at, and we can see what you guys are really asking for and create a schedule to come in and give you all that stuff. If you're interested, this is something I send out at the end of the week of each week to my agents. If you're interested in getting a real-time weekly real estate trends, hopefully today with my presentation, you learned that I might know a little bit about what's going on in the business. I tried to make this very short and sweet, concise and to the point, so it's easy to read without any fluff. As you can see, I'm not asking for business. I'm not trying to get you to buy anything. I'm just giving you information that might help be a good read as you go into the weekend showing houses with clients. So if you want me to send this to you, just text "what's up" to my cell phone, 813-253-9151. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's time. We went just a little bit over, but we started a little late. So I think we actually finished 4 minutes early, looks like. Any questions from anybody before I log off and go about my way? You can see my cell phone in the bottom left corner. All right. Well, I am going to shut down. My pleasure, Miss Anastasia. I appreciate you sticking in with me. It's always good to see people on camera, so I'm not just acting like a madman by myself in a room. Daniela, thank you so much. I appreciate you as always. All right, guys, I'm signing off. If you need me, just feel free to text me, call me, shoot me some smoke signals. I'm always around to answer and help out any way I can.
Thank you very much.
You got it.